October 19th. On this day, 80 years ago, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington was released to critical and commercial acclaim, beloved by all those except the authoritarian politicians it so expertly took shots at. Those familiar with me through Twitter or Discord should be no stranger to this film. I talked about this movie very early on in my channel's history. Back then, I tried having a series called MIS. It was a dumb idea. Like, what the hell was I thinking? There is no way you can boil down an entire movie's worth into just one scene. Especially a movie with character arcs as involved and organic as this. I always intended to revisit this movie in depth, and so here we are. For starters, it's just a solid film. It's superbly acted, impeccably written, and from a technical standpoint, it was one of the greatest films of the time. Made even more impressive since it was made by Columbia, which was not one of the big five Hollywood studios. It's almost universally seen as one of the best movies of the year in that decade, and keep in mind, 1939 gave us Gone with the Wind, Wizard of Oz, and a ton of other films. Yet it's this film, not any of those other films, that I keep coming back to. And when I say coming back, I mean I've seen this movie more times than any other movie that doesn't involve laser swords. I mean that if I were to rank my absolute favorite movies of all time, this would be right up there with Star Wars and Godfather Part 2. I mean that James Stewart's performance as Jefferson Smith is 90% of the reason why I have never fallen into cynicism. I didn't realize it until I decided to do this video, but every time I feel jaded or discontent, I put on this movie and it brings me right back into the light. I am Senator Payne, and this movie is my own personal Jefferson Smith. This movie reminds me that there are things worth fighting for, and that sometimes lost causes are the causes you should fight for the most. Jefferson Smith is a paragon. Like Captain America, he is unchained. What changes is his world. He's a good old American boy. He loves the Constitution, he recites Jefferson and Lincoln, deifies Washington, but more importantly, he clings to the same ideals that shaped those men. He is taken from his small town setting and dropped into the Washington Senate chamber. He's not a career politician. His only connection is that his father was friends with Senator Payne back when Payne was just a lawyer. And he learns real quick that politics are messy. It's hard. Sometimes people do good things for bad reasons. Sometimes people do bad things for good reasons. Sometimes good and bad are as black and white as the film this is printed on. But more importantly, everyone acts as some kind of interest, want, or desire that guides their actions. This is symbolized in the four chief players in this movie. Jim Taylor is a bad man. He is driven completely by greed. He's not just someone who works in the mainstream press. He is the mainstream press. He is the one who controls all the information in Smith's unnamed state. He is championing the Willet Creek Dam just to line his own pockets. He is the only one in this movie who acts completely for his own selfishness. It's this kind of corruption, as well as Taylor's ability to hold sway over politicians, that Smith speaks out against. Senator Joseph Payne is a good man, but he's not good all the time. He's the idealistic politician who has given into cynicism and greed. He's a falling knight in desperate need of a reminder of why he set out into politics in the first place. He knows the dam is a sham, and he knows Smith. When he first tries to convince Smith to back off the bill, he brings up the net positives, the benefits the dam will have. Smith still wants no part of it. Of the two, Payne is a much more typical politician. It's implied that he's not even concerned with the money, he just wants Taylor on his side because he doesn't want to compromise his position. And it's also implied he's done a lot of seemingly good things in the Senate. He's just had to get his hands dirty to get things done. Saunders goes through a similar arc. She's not a bigwig, so her actions have far less consequences. But if Payne compromised his ideals for power, Saunders did so in the name of money. It's for that reason that she breaks first. She has a hard time understanding why Smith is the way he is, and in the end, she buys into his idealism and decides to help him. Jefferson Smith is a good man who does good things for good reasons. His actions kick apart Taylor's political machine, but the dramatically ironic thing is that he wouldn't have even known to if not for Saunders and Payne being good people deep down.
Why don't you do it? Now there's a job for you. Get a bill started to accomplish it, present it to Congress. It'll be a great experience for you.
The inciting incident for the main conflict is when the newspaper paints Smith like a stooge. He asks Payne for advice to legitimize his position as a senator, and Payne gives him good advice. Payne's not dispassionate either. He truly wants to help his friend, so he tells Smith to write up a bill, and that bill is what eventually comes between them. Likewise, without Saunders, Smith would have never learned about Payne's own bill, which uses the same plot of land Smith wanted to use for his bill, thus beginning their conflict as Smith digs deeper into the ordeal. And without Payne's innate kindness, the truth would have never held its day. Smith manages to break through to Payne, reawaken that champion of the little guy that had been buried by Taylor's machine, and it is only then that the good guys are able to triumph against the corrupt. These are the kinds of themes and arcs I need to remind myself about every now and again. I don't ever want to be the cynical, jaded little twat I was in middle school. That's why this movie sticks with me. That's why I rewatch this at least once a year. That's why this movie gets a 10 out of 10. If you liked this video, comment below what movies you would like to see me talk about next. I want to eventually get through all my favorite movies on this channel, and for everyone that subscribes and watches, that goal becomes easier to obtain. I'm Mediocrity4, thanks for watching.